welcome to the series. I'm Epic Overactor, and today we're playing Jurassic World Evolution 2. And let's begin. Oh, by the way, while you're here, please leave a like and subscribe. It's free, it helps out a ton, and it's greatly appreciated. And today here we're playing on the Corsica map with the natural lagoon, and I'm excited. So you hear the overview of the map. We're going to start here on the top area, and we're going to work our way down all the way to the lagoon. So let's go ahead and start off with adding an arrival point. And then let's begin our main entrance. We'll start off here by putting down a standard path. You know what, actually, let's do a larger path instead, by rather doing the main thoroughfare, just so that way then there's plenty of room and it looks like it truly is an entrance rather than an offshoot. And then let's begin with some foliage here, making kind of an arching gateway, but instead rather using two trees. That looks nice, and then let's add some smaller foliage, just to fill up the ground, not quite as small as that one plant there, and instead let's use these small trees. They kind of look like tall bushes, like, not as consistent as a bush, like with the foliage going around it entirely, but rather sprouting up like a tree, and then just looks kind of bushy like a bush. And instead of these planters, do you want to do something next to it, or let's do these wall arches instead of planters. They fit in with the map style better. After all, it coming with the DLC, which this map is on. Let's get it up close to the pathway. And you know what, let's put another one over here instead and remove that other one so it's closer to the path. Now let's add in some lighting here. And let's see, what do we want to do? Let's go to the lighting section and just see all the options we have. And I don't want to use just pure lights, so you know what, we'll go with the banners. We might do some regular pure just lights later on in the park, but start off here with some Jurassic World green banners. It provides light, but it also matches with the aesthetic, and also doesn't look like it's just there to be light, which is also cool. And now let's add in a hatchery. And we'll connect it in with the facility path. And yet, actually, instead of doing that, what would be smarter to do is instead use the Hyperloop by using a control center from the Bioscene expansion, so that way then the hatchery isn't up with the guest section, which seems fitting, as it adds a more secure realism factor. And let's see, that's not the right control center. Here. And we'll use that by placing it down, connecting it out. Oh, and by the way, to mention, you can't use two control centers on a regular map, if you did not know. However, with the new settings, you can do that to use them as decoration, but it still works with that same feature as the Hyperloop, in this case with the control center, luckily, and it's also really nice because of that. But yeah, if you're working in a regular campaign or challenge mode map, this will not work. And you know what? Let's go ahead and cover it up with some trees. And that's not really dense foliage. I could use a larger brush and get some trees down. But instead, let's use the city plants which again aren't very dense, but they look matching with the environment, and it doesn't have to be completely shadowed in where you can see it. And instead, actually, what we can use this as a background, a wow factor to our exhibit here today, and seal it off with the invisible fencing. So at the end of the park, we don't have the notification saying that dinosaurs broke in, which will be nice. And the tip here is with the fencing is if you get it right up to the world border where it looks like it's connected, dinosaurs can't escape through that or go through it. Either way. And it's really nice, so that way then you don't have to do fencing all the way around if you can't see that fencing. I personally like to do fencing all the way around if you can see it, just to give the aesthetic that it's caged in, it's protected, if you're doing a park. If you're ever doing a more safari style, but you want to keep the dinosaurs from intermixing too much, then invisible fences and utilizing the world border is perfect for that. And let's go ahead and make the tour route here, so that way guests can tour around and see the entire thing. So I want this to be a rather large herbivore exhibit, and then so that way, and it's not really good of a place to do a tour, and tours are one of the best things you can do to make your park look nice. It's just to have at least one, just so then when you're done with it, you can go around on the tour track in the vehicle and help enjoy and appreciate one of your exhibits that you did. And let's get a fencing that is right for the aesthetic, again, to look like it's controlled and dinosaurs can't just escape, unlike an invisible fence, even though they can. And let's do that one, since neither the concrete or that other heavy fence, they look like they were meant for something that was too dangerous that a guest can't go in with, and thus the tour doesn't seem unfitting. This other fence looks contained and proper grade, but doesn't look like it's containing something so dangerous that you have to do a top security fence for. We'll have this loop all the way around again, just even though I know they can't escape, but rather just to give that aesthetic that they won't, even though you and I know they won't at all, even without putting the fence in. It's just rather to give the fact that the vibe that they're not going to get out anywhere. They can't harm the guests. And it gives a safety and realism factor to your parks when you do stuff like that. That, of course, Jurassic World Evolution 2 isn't meant to be entirely realistic with your parks. But when you add a realism factor, while still making it look cool and good, makes the park look so much better, and also doesn't look like there's a safety hazard if you're going there. Of course, this isn't quite the safety that you would actually have at if there was a real dinosaur park, of course, because then if you could go all the way to do all the proper precautions, but then it loses some of its wow factor in doing such. It can still have it, but it's an unnecessary thing to think about, but you just want to add in a little bit, so that way then it seems like you put effort into that. And let's add in some of this rock, and then add in some of this light sand, just to not have the rock all the way around it. And man, this other dirt texture looks a lot like rock, but to add some variety, even though I'm not a big fan of it, let's add a little bit of it in. Of course, using that main dirt as the main texture for it. Maybe even in later adding some of that darker sand. And we also, in the second, will want to add some more texture to the exhibit, so that way then there's depth, and it doesn't look like it's just so flat. And by doing that, we can use sand dunes. And we'll add in the red sand over it, and not the white sand, just due to the fact that the white sand was so bright. I mean, it looks fitting for a pond, but it doesn't look fitting for a sand dune, where you don't want it to be like, it looks like it can blind you. The sand there looks more like a beach sand rather than an actual desert sand that you'd see. I'm probably incorrect. You probably could see it just as much in an actual desert, but personal taste. And let's add in a river here, just the way the sand dunes set up, as you can see, to add a little bit more water and make this lagoon more interesting, and it again adds more texture and depth to the environment to make it not look so flat. Now let's add in some water again, and let's see, the tour track. So what we're going to do is build a really cool rock bridge here. And how you do that is by adding rocks deep enough so that way it doesn't look like the water can go through, or at least easily go through. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to give the right image that, like, at a quick glance you can tell it doesn't look like water's going through easily. And we'll use the Mediterranean rocks for that, since it fits with the environment. Let's add just the main large rocks first. Oh, I wish I could put a rock in there. It's too far back if I add one, though. That one doesn't fit there either. Which sucks. But it is what it is. The hitboxes in this game are what they are. And you just have to build around it. It's okay if it's not perfect, but you want it to be as close as you can and make it look good. And don't be too overly concerned about perfection in this game. After all, if it's perfect, it doesn't look like it's real. It's supposed to look good that at a glance it looks nice, it looks good. And even if you look at it longer, it still looks good, but it doesn't look perfect, and that's okay. And over time, I know with myself, I've gotten better at this game, and anyone can if they just learn from what they do. This isn't going to be perfect. I don't know what quite to do exactly to improve this rock bridge, but it does at the first glance look like the water is stopped and adds that aesthetic that we're looking for. And we'll need to flatten that out again, just because it doesn't really give enough room for the water to go through. And speaking of which, this enclosure has come a long way. And from this angle, the rock bridge looks a lot better. And also, by the way, skip to 15 minutes and 42 seconds to skip this leveling part, as it takes longer than what was expected. And let's add in the dunes back in further, so that way the river isn't too big. And those little triangles show depth, but you can't see it, which is really annoying and frustrating. But hopefully this time, if we go in with the, let's just add more of it. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And now we don't have to worry about it. So now we can go in and add the water, and the hill's too big for it to flatten out, which is inconvenient, but it is what it is. So we can just use the, actually we have to literally lower the terrain, so that way then it physically, the tool will flatten, so it's close enough and easy enough to flatten. And let's just go ahead and flatten out the area also close to it, just so that way then we don't run into that issue again. Let's add it in the water here. And now let's thin it out the stream, I should say, concerning its length. It isn't as long as you'd see a river. I mean, if it is a river, it's the shortest, and at one point it was the thickest for its length river in existence, to say the least. And now let's add in the dunes back in, just to, again, add that texture, that depth that we're looking for. We'll have to go in with the red sand over them, because it doesn't have all the red sand on all of it. Just so that way it has that gritty texture. And now first before we do that, let's add in some shrubs. And since we're in sandbox mode, we don't have to worry about specific foliages that the dinosaurs need if you're in campaign or challenge mode. And in arid climates, do sparse and small foliage. It's the best way to go, so that way then you don't overdo it, and it fits in with the environment that you're given. And especially when you have the water sources, put it extremely around them. And by the way, sorry for the graphics quality drop there a second ago. And now let's add in a little bit of trees. You don't want it to be completely barren, especially if you have water. So it looks more, with the water, it doesn't look like it's a pure desert, especially with this Mediterranean climate. If you were in an actual desert, then it'd be more the case. But rather, we're in this Mediterranean climate, so it's not like trees are rare or anything. And that overall looks good. Let's add in a little bit more ground foliage. And you can, with the tall foliage, you have to keep it light, especially. It's not quite so true. And yeah, with that sand, it's not good. The white sand is not good for here. But with the smaller foliage, you don't have to quite be so sparse with it. I mean, not all tied together, but you can put good patches of it, just not all connected. And it still looks good, but if you do too much of the tall foliage, too much of it, too dense, it doesn't look quite right. And let's go ahead and begin with the dinosaurs. Let's see, what do we want? I want an armored dinosaur of some sort, but not a ceratopsid. Ideally an ankylosaur, notosaurid, or stegosaurid. Sauropelta looks nice. So does Stygimoloch. Those both seem fitting. Let's see. You know what? I haven't really used Wherehosaurus, and you know what? Let's go ahead and do that. I really don't need to do this, but I don't want to see the red notification when I'm going through it in the DNA, showing that there's a negative trait. And let's go ahead and begin the task there. And you know what? Let's add another smaller herbivore. You know what? Let's definitely go with the Stygimoloch here. It looks like a very arid dinosaur after all, and that makes it perfect for this. And let's just do 4 to Wherehosaurus, since there's only 7 Stygimoloch, and that seems like a good number for them. After all, you don't want to overpopulate your exhibits. I've learned from previous mistakes with that, and it doesn't work out well. You know, let's do Oviraptor or a Lycosaurus. But back to what I was saying, you want to also, with your species, larger dinosaurs, lower populations. Smaller dinosaurs, high populations. Unless it's a pure carnivore. Well, even with, but if it's a medium-sized carnivore, you still want to keep it a low population. But like with the herbivores, you don't want to have it like having 6 Werosaurus, like 6 Triceratops, and only like 7 Stygimoloch. So then you have all these large herbivores that there's several of, and then you have the smaller herbivore, you have basically the same amount, even though they're way smaller. And let's not do Ankylosaurus, but yeah, I definitely want to do an Ankylosaur or Notosaurid. Tritanosaurus is not quite right, nor is Eucephalus. You know, let's definitely do Sauropelta. It was catching my eye earlier. I think I'm gonna go with that. Ooh, yeah. I forgot to randomize the skins for that, but it's okay. And after all, you don't want to all the dinosaurs to have random skins all the time. And don't be afraid to, like, I know it's so easy and convenient and gives so much variety when you do the random, and I do it a lot as well, but, like, if there's a skin you like, you know, or if you ever find the dinosaur skin you like, just try to remember it, maybe even write it down somewhere, and so then you can have it, and then you can do that set 1. And if you want to have variation, then you can do a few of the same different ones, or do a really large exhibit and do really high populations. An exhibit that's about the size of this upper area, and then, for example, you could do like 3 different Stygimoloch variations, and then same with like the Werosaurus, Sauropelta, Oviraptor, and maybe you can add another species or 2 in there. And let's add in the zipline here. And one way to make your mountains higher and hills here in Jurassic World Evolution 2 is to go raise it all the way to the max level, flatten it out, and then do that, raise it on top of that. It's not quite as steep as it ideally would be at times, but if you're wanting it to get higher up in elevation than what it was before, that's always a way to do it. It's a pain that it has to be that way, but it's the best way to make with the tool that it is. And let's add in that zip line. Goes over those sand dunes and the end of the river. And you just want to have another way of viewing an exhibit rather than just one. And I always find that ideal, so that way then look across the exhibit. And also, this is my first time using the zip line, so I kind of want to see how it works and how it goes. And let's go ahead and connect up the paths here. And yeah, it's looking good. You know, we need to remove that one tree because it's in the path this way. And let's connect up this other path. We might even change the path later, but we just have it there as a blueprint and foundation for it. And now let's actually rather decorate that path with foliage. But first, before we do that, let's go ahead and get some more dinosaurs releasing. Let's do the Oviraptors first, since it takes a lot of them. In case we take a while with this, we just go ahead and have it going, and then we don't have to worry about it. And let's do a different texture for this. Let's do rock, like the one we did around the pond. And that one looks really nice for it. We're gonna want to add something else, so just besides that texture change from the base area. You know what we might want to do is add in some trees, not just a tree brush. You know what, let's go back out and go into the decorations and add in some bigger, larger trees. These ones look nice. Add a few of them. Add a few of these medium trees as well as we get higher up. Slightly smaller and younger. And then add a few of those palms. I'm not a big fan, but they work. Let's add in some of these small trees like we had earlier. They look nice. But you don't want to have too many of them, of course. And then it looks quite contrasting and not quite right. It doesn't look like a tree would grow in that type of soil. So rather we add some foliage around here, just around the general area and pathways. And on top of that rock, not only does it look really good with the rock, but it also looks like the trees can grow in it. Let's add it around. We don't want to add it all the way around. Actually, we might. You know what, instead, let's remove some of that. Because I liked how that cliff face looked earlier. It kind of looks like an accent wall. Even though it's a hill. But it still looks nice. It adds that brighter color among the foliage, which is mainly green and brown. And let's ride the zip line. Even though there's many dinosaurs around here, still. And yeah, I had never used this before, and man, is it cool. Sadly, there's some more dinosaurs around here. However, I think I know a way to change that. Oviraptors can use the meat feeder, since they're omnivores, the only one in the game. Also one of my favorite dinosaurs. So let's put the carnivore feeder right below the zipline, and then hopefully it'll attract the oviraptors. Even though the smallest dinosaurs being the hardest to see from the zipline, it'll still attract them over there and add more dinosaurs around that area. And yeah, it's looking really good, really nice, and I'm excited for the next episode. Over in the next episode, we'll be filling up the rest of this area, probably at the top, and then after that, we're going to go down to the lagoon area. We'll probably have 4 episodes, because we'll probably not finish the entire top area, and we won't finish the entire lagoon area in 1 episode, so it'll be a mixed episode in between the 2 areas, probably being the 3rd. We'll add in some more decorations and guest areas. I might do some of that off camera, of course. And let's go into capture mode, just so that way we can look at some of these dinosaurs here at the end. Sadly, we did not get the sword pelts out, but it's okay, we can do that later. Let's check it out. And again, if you haven't already, please leave a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel, especially if you enjoyed this video. And I really like how these Stitchy Mock skins came out. Now that they're more blaringly bright. Ooh, and that Werosaurus looks nice. And I think those Oviraptors were just doing an animation. Now they're running. I think they're coming down here to the river, or stream, should I say, to get some water. And they also came out really well. It's nice when the random skins don't come out with a ridiculously bright or really boring skin. It rather comes out with a good variety, and that all looks different, and all looks good too. This Werosaurus here looks nice. So around here, you can see a zip line with no people on them, since the park isn't open yet, which we'll do after we're finished. And yeah, let's end it off with some Oviraptors. So yeah, these are some of the coolest dinosaurs there are. That's for sure, certain. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed. Bye.